Human rights in Russia. Human rights in Russia have been a topic of concern for many international organizations and human rights activists. While the Russian constitution guarantees certain fundamental rights and freedoms to its citizens, including the right to life, freedom of speech, and freedom of assembly, there have been reports of violations and restrictions on these rights. Freedom of expression and media freedom in Russia have faced challenges, with independent media outlets being subjected to censorship, intimidation, and even closure. Critics of the government have also faced harassment and imprisonment, with some cases being widely criticized as politically motivated. There have been concerns about the treatment of minorities, including the LGBT+ community, with laws that restrict their rights and freedoms. Additionally, there have been allegations of torture and ill treatment of prisoners, as well as restrictions on the right to fair trial. Corruption in Russia. Corruption has been a significant issue in Russia for many years. It affects various sectors, including politics, law enforcement, judiciary, and business. Transparency International's Corruption Perceptions Index consistently ranks Russia relatively low in terms of perceived corruption, indicating a significant problem. Corruption in Russia takes many forms, including bribery, embezzlement, nepotism, and abuse of power. It undermines the rule of law, hampers economic development, and erodes public trust in institutions. Efforts to combat corruption have been made, including the establishment of anti-corruption bodies and legislation. However, the effectiveness of these measures has been questioned, and many believe that corruption remains deeply rooted in Russian society. Law of Russia and crime. The law of Russia is based on a civil law system, with the constitution serving as the supreme law of the country. The legal framework includes various codes and statutes that regulate different aspects of Russian society, such as criminal law, civil law, and administrative law. Crime is a concern in Russia, with various types of offenses being reported, including theft, fraud, organized crime, and violence. The Russian government has taken steps to address crime, such as increasing police presence, strengthening law enforcement agencies, and implementing stricter penalties for certain offenses. However, there have been concerns about the independence and effectiveness of the judiciary, as well as allegations of human rights abuses in the criminal justice system. Some cases have attracted international attention, highlighting issues such as arbitrary detention, lack of due process, and unfair trials. It is worth noting that the information provided here is a general overview and does not encompass all aspects of human rights, corruption, and crime in Russia. The situation is complex and evolving, and it is recommended to consult up-to-date and reliable sources for a comprehensive understanding. The Russian Armed Forces, also known as the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation, are the military forces of Russia. They are divided into the ground forces, Navy, Air Force, and the strategic missile forces. The Russian armed forces are one of the largest and most powerful military forces in the world, with a significant arsenal of nuclear weapons. Human rights in Russia have been a subject of concern for many international organizations. There have been reports of violations of civil and political rights, including restrictions on freedom of speech, assembly, and association. There have also been allegations of torture, arbitrary arrests, and unfair trials. The government has been criticized for its treatment of political dissidents and journalists. Corruption is a significant issue in Russia. It affects various aspects of society, including politics, business, and law enforcement. Transparency International's Corruption Perceptions Index consistently ranks Russia relatively low in terms of perceived corruption. Efforts to combat corruption have been made, including the establishment of anti-corruption bodies and the implementation of legislation. However, challenges remain in effectively addressing this issue. The law of Russia is based on a civil law system influenced by European legal traditions. The legal system is codified, with the constitution serving as the supreme law of the country. The judiciary is independent in theory, but there have been concerns about political interference in high-profile cases. The legal framework includes various branches of law, such as criminal, civil, administrative, and constitutional law. Crime is a complex issue in Russia, with various types of criminal activities occurring. Organized crime, including activities such as drug trafficking, money laundering, and extortion, has been a significant concern. Other common crimes include theft, fraud, and corruption. The government has taken measures to combat crime, such as strengthening law enforcement agencies, implementing stricter penalties, and promoting community policing. The economy of Russia is considered one of the largest in the world. It is heavily dependent on natural resources, particularly oil, gas, and minerals. Russia is a major exporter of these resources, which contributes significantly to its economic growth. However, the Russian economy has faced challenges, including fluctuations in global commodity prices, economic sanctions imposed by Western countries, and structural issues such as corruption and inefficient governance. Efforts have been made to diversify the economy and promote sectors such as technology, innovation, and manufacturing. Transport in Russia. Transportation in Russia is diverse and consisting of various modes including road, rail, air, and water transport. The country has an extensive road network, with over 1.4 million kilometers of paved roads connecting major cities and regions. The railway system in Russia is one of the most extensive in the world, with over 85,000 kilometers of tracks, making it an important mode of transportation for both passengers and freight. Air travel is also well developed, with numerous domestic and international airports serving major cities. Additionally, Russia has a vast network of rivers and canals, making water transport an important mode for cargo transportation. Energy in Russia. Russia is one of the world's largest energy producers and exporters. The country is known for its abundant natural resources, particularly oil, natural gas, and coal. Russia is the world's largest exporter of natural gas and second largest exporter of oil after Saudi Arabia. The energy sector plays a crucial role in the Russian economy, accounting for a significant portion of its GDP and government revenue. In terms of electricity generation, Russia relies heavily on thermal power plants, which use fossil fuels such as natural gas and coal. However, the country has been making efforts to diversify its energy mix and increase the share of renewable energy sources, such as wind and solar power. Russia also operates several nuclear power plants, which contribute a significant portion of its electricity production. Nuclear energy is considered a strategic sector in Russia, with plans for further expansion of its nuclear power capacity. Overall, energy is a critical sector in Russia, both for domestic consumption and international trade, contributing to the country's economic growth and geopolitical influence.